Fáilte, you are very welcome to the GAA Handball Youth Expo 2021. My name is Grainne McElwain and I'm delighted to be your host today. Today's interview is part of Mindful Mondays and we're looking at balancing sport and study. I'm delighted to be joined then by Longford footballer and former AFL player Mickey Quinn. Mickey, you're very welcome.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me and looking forward to this.
Mickey, first of all, let's just start about how you got involved in playing sport. How did that come about?
Yeah, from an early age, just was something, middle child, older sister, younger brother, stuck in the middle, and sport was always something, good weather, bad weather, playing all different types from basketball, soccer, Gaelic football, and probably the main one was Gaelic football, but probably soccer kind of took over for a middle section, from probably 13 to 17 was fairly predominant, and then playing Gaelic football on and off all through that, and then AFL cropped up later on. But just getting a taste for the different sports from an early age, from athletics to basketball to soccer, and then when I tasted all those different sports, that kind of the team environment was something that I really enjoyed, and yeah, went from there.
So the area that you were from, Mickey, maybe just explain a little bit to us, for those that aren't familiar with Longford or your club scene. So there was a lot of sports that you were involved in. Was that in the area that you're from?
Yeah, probably was to do with the area. And my local club is 𝗕�奧𝘃𝗱𝘆, and went to school in neighbouring parish, so that kind of ended up making more friends and different connections there, and even different teams and different sports, and that kind of helped me probably be a little bit more outgoing, because when you start coming back to your own club or county, that you've met these people already before, and just being involved in different teams helped with that. But yeah, soccer also, Longford Town was kind of fairly popular at the time, and successful with FAI Cups, and there was an interest there, and going to soccer games, watching them. But Gaelic football was the main one. Used to go to games with my dad and uncle, travelling around, going to watch Longford games from an early age, and that was something that, yeah, I had a huge draw for it then, and just loved playing.
So you obviously were extremely active then as a teenager and playing sport, as you've outlined for us. But what kept you motivated? What kept you wanting to stay involved in playing sport during your school years?
Yeah, I think it was the camaraderie and the involvement in others. Probably when I think I played the Kennedy Cup, I think it was under 13 down in Limerick back in the day, and from that I got asked to go and play with Bohemians soccer club in Dublin for I think it was under 15s, so I was travelling up and down from Dublin once a week for training, and a game at a weekend on a Sunday, so that was fairly intense. I think I was in fourth year at the time, so you're trying to balance things, homework, of your Sunday morning would be leaving the house at 7 o'clock in the morning and getting home at maybe 3 or 4 o'clock, and you'd be spent, so you kind of have to have your week planned out in advance with homework and bits and pieces like that. So you wouldn't be leaving homework till a Sunday night. You'd have to have it done and be organised. But what probably got me most involved was just probably family and people around me, and that I just loved. I loved playing, loved the routine, I loved the training and kind of willingness to kind of get better and improve, and seeing that improvement in whatever sport I was part of. And they were the main focuses for me probably growing up.
So you're mentioning a lot of the things there in terms of what you had to do. So time management seemed to be a massive part of that structure. So how do you become organised? How were you good at managing your time?
Yeah, it probably comes down to parents too, that you build those traits from them. And probably one of the things with Mam, when she'd brought me around to training here, there and everywhere, that punctuality was massive. Like, I was never going to be late for training or for school or anything like that. And they're little traits that I would have picked up from them, that punctuality was huge, and that kind of linked in with your time management. And whether it be going training, that you're organised in advance, that you're not coming home from training at 9:30, 10 o'clock trying to take into your homework, and that you have it done before for training, that you can actually go and probably treat training as somewhere where you can go and express yourself and enjoy it, and that it's not a chore or a task. And I think that's the big thing, especially nowadays, and that if you don't have that fun element, it's going to be very hard to stay involved in a particular sport, whether that be individual or team. And that's something probably that creeps in from the teaching side of things, that I see that making it fun and making it competitive for individuals and the whole class is key. And that's something that I really, probably looking back now on when I was playing sport when I was young, and even still to this day, that making it fun and being competitive, and that competitive side of things, it could be just competition against yourself rather than another team or someone at training, that you're making it competitive to you, and that in turn leads to the fun side for me.
Mm-hmm. So you had a massive support network there for you, Mickey, growing up. Your parents were really organised and they helped you through that. But looking back now, maybe for people watching this that mightn't have the same support network involved in that, like, did you do like a weekly plan of what I need to do every single day, a daily plan? Did you get up a little bit earlier in the morning? Or like, how, if looking back, did it work for you in that you could fit all that in every single day?
Yeah, like I figured out from an early age that I was a morning person, that I need to get stuff done early in the day, and still am like that. So when I was in third year, I got into the habit of getting up half hour, 40 minutes early for school, or earlier than I normally would have to. And I quick shower out, and I go through notes for maths or geography or whatever it was that I needed to get done. And that was my kind of study section, that I do that 3-4 days a week, maybe not the day after a late training session, but that was my way of squeezing in the time that I wanted to spend studying, if I was losing out going training the night before or in that week. So schedule in things like that worked really well. I plan a day out in advance, or a week out in advance. I know when I'm training, when I needed to do what subject or focus on homework, and it takes time to be organised like that. But the last thing I probably found that I wanted was to be just rushing and kind of chasing my tail from one end of the week to the next. Then when you get to the weekend, it all starts again. So when I was able to plan out a week well in advance, know when I'm training, know when I wanted to sit down and do my study, whether it be in the morning or after school straight away, and then just filtering in the blocks there that you're kind of just managing the time as best you can that suits you. Like, everyone's going to be different. Some people it might suit to do that after training when they get home. But I think what students now that I'm seeing nowadays at the moment as a teacher is that the importance of sleep and how it's been neglected is so crucial, not just as being playing sport or being involved as an athlete in different sports. It's as a whole, that students staying up until 3-4 in the morning and then working off 3 or 4 hours sleep, and that's really, really tough to do. So that's something that managing your sleep and managing how you're feeling is the big thing.
And I'd say, dare say, going along with that as well is your phone usage too, Mickey. Like, how big of a difference are you seeing now in terms of mobile phones, and everyone has a smartphone practically now, and what they're using with it?
Yeah, I'm the same myself. I'm struggling to put it down. When you're trying to chill out or relax, that relaxing time now, times has changed, that relaxing time or downtime is actually picking up your phone, scrolling mindlessly. And one of the things that's helped me since Christmas, and probably drifted back the other way, is January I said, right, okay, half an hour in the morning, half an hour at night, that's my time, that I'm not going to use a phone for that period, last thing before bed and first thing in the morning, and just stay completely off it. And it just kind of, you wind up in the morning and then you're completely trying to wind down at night, and then the phone plugged in beside the bed. There for a few weeks I tried it away from the bed, and it makes a huge difference. You're not just reaching, I'll check the time, there's a notification, I better go in, I better click and reply to that. And it's this kind of, it just circles then that you're going to bed at 11 o'clock and all of a sudden it's 12:30 or 1 o'clock, and the cycle just keeps going, and that's difficult. So putting things in place that will help with that, I've found has helped me.
So it's putting a structure and a kind of a discipline on yourself of what you need to do. If you do that on a daily basis, include possibly your phone time as well on that structure of the day too, and that seems to work, does it?
Well, definitely. Like I suppose my big thing probably from an early age was lists, writing lists. I'm very good at writing a list of 5 things, taking one thing off the list and then writing another list before that one was completed. I think we're all, I feel good about that. I'll write a new list. I think we're all in that position a bit, but that really helps me. The last thing at night, okay, tomorrow I want to do this. I need to collect this. I need to go here. I need to do that. Writing your list. And then last thing at night, or before your half an hour wind down time, that you can say, right, I got this, and this done, and go again the next day. I found that kind of journaling those few bits and pieces has helped, and probably diving a little bit deeper in, why did you feel good today, or what worked well today? Geez, I was in bad form today, and then you're going back through looking, well, why was I in bad form today? Well, I didn't really sleep that well. I didn't exercise, or I didn't drink a whole pile of water. They're the few things that really have stood out to me since January and in the past, that if I'm not exercising regularly or daily sometimes, or even going for a simple walk, that I've noticed that my mood mightn't be as good. So the endorphins and everything that's released when you're hydrated, when you're exercising, helps me to be in good form and up and about, and actually fills me with energy. So that's something that I've kind of noticed from writing down lists and journaling, that you can figure out what works best for you, and kind of creating these little habits, 3 or 4 little habits that make you feel good about yourself, and actually help being productive as an athlete or as a student with schoolwork, that you can actually, okay, these are little things that when I do them well, I feel good, and I also perform in school or with my sport.
Did you ever find, and we'll talk about college in a few moments' time, but when you were at school, like with all this competing of schoolwork, study work, teachers, sports, you're traveling all the time, did you ever feel overwhelmed, Mickey? And if you did, how did you cope with that?
Yeah, definitely. There's times that there was like, okay, and I think the easy thing to say, you have to talk about it. It's getting to that stage where you can say it to someone, where you can say it to a friend, a brother or sister, a parent, a teacher, and getting to the stage where you can make that interaction and kind of almost a weight off your shoulders by doing it. But I think everyone talks about, talk to someone. Making that first initial step is the hardest part. And probably for me, what kind of worked well for me, I think everyone's a bit the same when you're running through a conversation in your head. How is this going to go? Okay, I'm going to say this, and they'll say this back to me. You're trying to plan out how you're going to say it. And I think it's a very difficult thing for someone to do when they're a teenager and they approach an adult. But you kind of, once you do it once, or you have a little bit of a plan what you want to say, that, okay, I remember going to a geography teacher when I was struggling, or when things were building up a fair bit with training wise, and I wasn't going to be able to give homework. I wasn't going to be able to do it. I said, look, I'm training in Dublin tonight. I'm not going to be back until 11:30. I don't think I'll be able to get the homework done. And you think it's such a small thing. And now when you look back on it, it's like, Jesus, it was end of the world stuff for you. But he was like, yeah, that's no problem at all. do you know what, try and get in for the next day, and we'll take it from there. Don't worry about it. Whereas you kind of build these things up to be a lot of the time bigger than they are. But in your world, they're massive. But when you actually share it and kind of talk to someone, it makes things an awful lot easier for you.
Did you ever find at any point that you went, you know what, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to have to give one of these sports up?
Yeah, and I did go. There's a stage when it was county minor, and would have been. I kind of gave up soccer in my leaving cert year, so I focused. I kind of that traveling up and down. I said, okay, that's not going to be doable when I'm doing my leaving cert, and just focused on Gaelic. And look, I enjoyed it, and then the following year, when I went to college, I'd done a year in civil engineering in Bolton Street in Dublin. And I was commuting over and back from one side of the city to the next with training for Bohemians. It was in DCU. So there's a lot of travelling and going around, but I kind of had said in that year that I was going to give up the Gaelic to focus on the soccer. And then just the Crawford just came back that, oh, come along, you only have to come to the games, and then he can come to the training. And then all of a sudden I was doing both in no time. But I suppose that was the other side of things with planning out your kind of probably long-term planning, that, right, there's an overlap there of maybe 4 to 6 weeks where it's going to be fairly intense, but soccer should be finished then I can go into Gaelic and I can manage it for that period. And it was kind of the planning. And, you know, sometimes there's times there where I remember playing a school's final at 2:00 on a Wednesday, and I think it was in April, May, and never told the coach, but I was going to play in a soccer game then that evening, and I was fairly spent. But in hindsight, looking back on it, I probably should have told or talked to someone, but it was very much, oh, shouldn't be playing Gaelic or shouldn't be playing soccer at the same time. So it's like, I'll do everything. But look, you live and learn, and got through it all right. But I think that is the big thing, that you're trying to kind of please everyone, but the main thing is that you're pleasing yourself, or you're doing what you enjoy. Like, I enjoyed doing that, and looking back and playing one game and going playing another one. You know, it was tough, but I knew it was kind of a means to an end, that something like that is very rare.
What would you say to anybody watching this, Mickey, that are like, you know what, I love sport. Maybe they've reduced one sport, they're just playing one sport, but I just physically can't fit in sport with study and school time. And maybe there's either internal pressure or peer pressure or parental pressure going, you know, you need to give up the sport, you need to concentrate on your exams. Like, what would you say to those people that are thinking of giving up sport just to solely concentrate on schoolwork and exams?
I think you kind of have to take a step back and even break down your week. Where are you spending most of your time, and is it sport that you're spending most of your time at that is kind of limiting your academic ability or your studying time, or is it actually sitting down watching TV, you know, for 2 or 3 hours a night, and you're catching up on this series and that series and Snapchat and TikTok, and you start figuring out, okay, well, there's a lot of time that I'm not studying, or I'm not playing sport. And is that time actually beneficial? Do I enjoy it? Look, you can spend a little bit of time doing that stuff still, but I think what sport can give away from being active and everything is you're going to learn skills as an individual, playing, whether it be handball or Gaelic football or any other sport, that you're going to learn skills that you're going to be able to apply in life or in whatever career you choose. So that's the main thing that I would have taken from it.
So when you finished school, then you got this absolutely amazing opportunity to go play Aussie rules with the Essendon Bombers. Just talk to me a little bit about that experience, and what was that like?
Yeah, I was had done a year in college, so I was kind of in college when I was early, before I was 18, and just turning 18 in January. And that summer played football for Longford minors and got asked to go for a trial down in Limerick first of all, and then got asked to go on a 2-week trial out to Melbourne. So went over to Melbourne, suitcase packed, for 2 weeks with another Irish guy, and sun cream, the whole lot packed, ready to go, shorts on. But didn't really do my homework that it was in the middle of winter in Melbourne at that stage. So the kind of wardrobe was null and void for those 2 weeks when I was out there. But went over there. They showed us around, brought us to a couple of games, put us through a few tests and bits and pieces. And I just loved the idea of playing professional sport. And that was something that probably the soccer route was something that I was looking at. And just the way things happened, AFL came knocking, and I thought it's too good of an opportunity to turn down. I got offered a 2-year contract. And I said, look, let's give this a go for the 2 years, or for the first year anyway, and give it socks and see what will come of it. So really good first year. Second year, really good, but probably didn't play as many games. And then got an extended contract for my third year, where management changed over a little bit. And then almost felt that I was falling out of favour a lot, with new management coming in, and you were an old project player, and kind of drifted a good bit, on top of probably 2 of my grandparents passed away in my third year and 1 in my second year. And that kind of hunger for home, and being so far away, really opened up my eyes to, geez, what is actually important. And kind of probably for someone so young, looking back on it, it kind of made me grow up very quickly, but it made me appreciate what were the important things, that wasn't getting caught up in the whole big house, money, any of that. It was kind of being close to your family and friends, and having that support network that you mentioned, Grainne, that it was kind of, you had a support network, but you hadn't that same connection or bond as you would have had at home. And that's the idea of almost playing a game, a Gaelic football match, and coming home and sitting down and drinking a cup of tea with your parents or brothers and sisters or family and friends, and chatting about it, that, you're playing a game the other side of the world, and it could be a day or two before someone gets to see a highlight or a clip or talk to you about it, that you don't have that family or connection that would have been at the games. So that kind of opened up my eyes to what really was important for me.
And do you feel, Mickey, that was probably one of the main reasons when you came back that you changed courses, or had that a huge impact on why you left maybe civil engineering and decided to go in the route of teaching?
Yeah, kind of the way it panned out. Like I loved the approach, or loved the coaching and teaching side of things, and probably got a taste for it a little bit more when I was out there. That I kind of were going around to communities doing community days, where you go to schools and give talks and bits and pieces, and I loved that. And then when I came back, it took me a while to get enrolled in college, so I kind of had a bit of a gap year where I was a coaching officer going around to primary schools for Longford GAA, and that just, I loved it. The variety every day, where every school is different, or every student, you have a story every day you're coming home with, and that was something, like, you're passionate about your sport, but also about coaching and teaching, and mightn't necessarily be the actual sport, just being fun and having the crack, really. And I think that's something that probably privileged as a PE teacher, and PE and maths, but the PE side of things, that you're seeing a different side of students. That, you have the academic students that have an interest in sport, or don't have an interest in sport, or students that have no interest in school, but when they get to PE, they love just getting out and about, and they show a different side. And that's kind of, it hits home that how important sport and being physically active is, that like, everyone comes and just wants to release steam and, get out and about and play football or soccer or whatever it is. And that's something that you're kind of very privileged to have as your career.
So when you've gone back to college, you're a little bit older now, and possibly a lot more wiser as well, Mickey, after being in Australia. But in terms of that, again, you're back to this structuring your day, structuring your week. I mean, school, there's a lot of support there, and that teachers are checking in on you. When you go to college, you're literally by yourself, so you need to put in that work yourself. So how did you find that the structure that you had implemented in secondary school in terms of your daily and your weekly planning, did you use the same format and system in college, or did you come up with a different way of structuring your day?
Yeah, it was kind of pretty similar, planning out your week in advance and knowing when you're training and what's the overlap. And I think what probably would have stood to me then, that you're juggling more teams, got to the stage where what you would have your Sigerson team, and you're throwing in your county team, your club team, and other commitments there that you're trying to keep all happy or keep touching base with everyone. And having a plan in place. And probably what I would have learned is the importance of keeping fresh. I think probably get caught up in, can't miss a training session. And I went through that phase where, I was afraid to miss anything in case, if I miss a training session here, that's not good. I don't want to be missing a training session. Whereas the bigger picture is, why do you play football, or why do you play any sport? It's to perform or get the opportunity to play a game or something. So sometimes the training, it mightn't necessarily be the be all and end all. To miss a session here and there, that actually keeps you fresh for when you want to be at your best. And that came about by having those conversations, and probably, as you said, being that bit more mature when I came back. I was able to pick up the phone and say, look at, whether it be ringing 𝗕𝗫𝘂𝘶 or ringing, I think it was Glenn Ryan at the time, saying, look, I can't train tonight. I'm after doing a training session today or yesterday, and I'm just in bits. And that was something that I kind of, all of a sudden, you're after maturing very quickly to be able to pick up a phone and call someone and do that. I wouldn't have dreamt of it a few years beforehand, but I think that was something that I picked out from when I was in Australia, that one of the things was the coaches, you'd have a daily or a weekly review where you go into your assigned coach and sit down with them and go through your performance on how you went and what you done. And I think I was doing that and kind of was getting so far with it, and at one stage I just said, I bit the bullet and knocked on the manager's door and said, look, what do I need to do to make the step up to play the game? And he kind of almost sat down and said, look, you're doing this great, just keep going the way you're going. And it gave me confidence to play with confidence, but then it also gave the manager an opportunity to say, okay, this guy's keen, he's interested, and he wants to do his best. And it kind of opened up their eyes that they're looking to see how you're doing even closer. Sometimes with a team sport or that, you can drift to the back and mightn't be seen, but I think that kind of opened up the eyes a little bit, that they're looking to see how you're doing. I suppose the next step is you got to be able to back it up when they're looking. But that was something that definitely brought home.
That would be something that you would suggest then to anyone watching here that maybe have a few taskmasters that they feel that they need to fulfill all fixtures for and everything for them. Just phone them up, talk to them and explain to them where you're at and the challenges that you're facing doing all these sessions.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I see it probably from a coaching side of things now at the moment, and I see it from a player in the past too, that, there's kids involved in so many different teams now, and sometimes you come to training as a coach and you don't even know what's happening behind the scenes with anyone. That, okay, they're after coming from a training session, they're after playing a basketball game the day before, and sometimes they just say nothing, and then, okay, lads, we're doing a tough session today, and then they just go through the motions, and that's not really ideal for them or for you as a coach or a manager. That trying to balance, no one wants to be flogging anyone at training or that. So the important thing is just to try and have that conversation, and make your coach or trainer aware that, okay, you are playing a few different sports there, or you're after training really hard. It's okay to take a rest, and I think that's something that's becoming an awful lot more acceptable now. probably the way things are at the moment is slightly different with not much sport going on. But I can see how kids nowadays will get overwhelmed with the amount of training or different bits and pieces. Whereas sometimes having that conversation, if you're thinking about giving up a sport or giving up sport, having that conversation will actually open up your eyes that, okay, that wasn't too bad. I can still do this. I can still study. I can still play my sport at the same time. I just don't have to maybe give that same level of commitment that I was given. Which doesn't make you a bad player or bad sports person. It's just what's best for you. And I think what's best for you and pleasing others, that's that balance and act that I think everyone in life, not just teenagers, can have to weigh up, that what's working best for you, and rather than trying to please parents, coaches, teachers, it's finding that balance.
So the past year, as we all know, the lovely words COVID-19 has been with us. And I mean, it's had so many challenges for so many people in various different ways. But from your perspective, Mickey, as a teacher now and your students, how has the past year been for you and them?
Yeah, it's been extremely difficult, and I think some people, there's kind of buzzword of mental health, and it's not really a buzzword. That it's so important that we're checking in with ourselves and understanding where we're at, and with the way COVID has, it's ramped that up even further. There's students that and kids nowadays that have gone from playing sport 7 days a week to not having anything, and that from a physical side of things, that's a huge change. You're changing from you're eating so much to fuel your body to perform or to train that much, and then all of a sudden that's gone, and now, okay, does your diet change? Has that happened? Or are you sitting around more often? That's something that's creeped up a lot. The change in the amount of free time that you have has been huge. Going from finishing school at 4:00, and that window from 4:00 in the evening until 10, 11 o'clock at night, where what are you filling that time with? And it's very hard when there's so much structure on your life that we've talked about, and that's gone, that's taken away, and that's difficult. And I think it's important to try and find the structure that works for you as a family, in your household, what's working, and probably having that support network at home and with friends, the social interaction as well that you're missing out on, catching up with friends and talking. I think that's really difficult for teenagers now. We kind of, you have your Snapchats and your phone for messaging, but it's not the same with catching up. And I think kind of have to be mindful of that and there's a massive chunk that's gone there. So it's trying to stay socially interactive with your friends, whether it be catching up, socially distance, and going for a walk. I know probably a lot starting to go back to school the next couple of weeks, but it's been mindful of how important that is.
Finally, before I let you go, just actually two more questions I'll ask you. Just in terms of sports, like you're a PE teacher, do you feel that the past year has taught us that we have a greater attachment to sport than maybe that we would have had previously, or maybe a better appreciation of sport than what we would have had before this pandemic ever began?
Definitely. I think both. I think the importance in getting everyone back playing sports now, not just, I think at the moment, when is inter-county football starting back, and there's a date on that, but I think it's bigger picture that it's so important for teenagers to get back into that setting and just be out and about and enjoying it. I think the importance of it has been emphasised, but I think it's opened our eyes how important it is for physical and mental mental health, across the board. It's from the whole way up, from primary school kids the whole way up to adults, that going for walks and getting out, going for runs. I think what this has taught us is kind of having our own schedule. I know team sports and that has been great, but I think what it has taught us is that individual sports are sports that in these circumstances you can still work on and still practice to a lot more of a higher level than, let's say, team sport. And I think that those sports are going to thrive after lockdowns start to end, whether it be running, cycling, even swimming. When guys can get back out there playing the different sports, it's taught us that it's so important to just be getting out and getting into a routine and treating it as part of our day and our week.
And lastly, people watching this here who are struggling, just to maybe recap on that advice again, Mickey, that people are watching this going, I'm finding it difficult to balance study and sport. Just final advice, Mickey, to them of what you feel that they should do.
Look, it's trying to manage your time as best you can. You hear stories of teenagers getting ready for leaving cert and they're sitting at a desk from 8 in the morning till 8 at night. And, that's counterproductive of just kind of going through the motions and taking little breaks every 40 minutes if you have to get up and go for a walk or get outside, and having little routines or habits that you've created that help you with your study, but also help you as a person or as an athlete, whether it be sleep, exercise, hydrating, finding little things, the phone usage, finding little things that will free up more time in your day, but also help you be more productive in your day, so that you can actually bang out a lot of your schoolwork a lot quicker, rather than sitting mindlessly staring at a laptop screen for 2 hours. That, okay, you could actually do that in half an hour. So you're kind of setting challenges with your screen time, that you're making the most out of it when you are doing that. And just the phone usage, try and go half an hour before bed or first thing in the morning without it, and see how you feel. And those little habits that you hopefully build up now are habits that you'll have for years to come, but figure out what works best for you.
Mickey, thank you so much for that advice and for your thoughts on that interview. Really enjoyed that. Much appreciated. And the best of luck with you and the continued season ahead. Hopefully we'll have a GA season starting very shortly. But to everybody watching, do keep in touch with us on our social media pages. There's plenty of more to come up over the next month or so. So do stay involved. Thanks again for watching. And until next time, Slán.